6:30.
Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals, a public hearing for February 24th, 2020. If you have a cell phone, please place it on vibrate or turn it off. If you wish to speak on behalf of a petition tonight, please approach the lectern, state your name and sign the record for public record. If you wish to speak amongst yourselves, please do so in the hallway in order to not disrupt the decorum of the meeting. As requested and agreed upon by councilors this evening in front of the board, we are going to go out of order and go to new business for ZB 2020-13 for variances. George Theodoro, care of Loon Hill Development, 66 State Street, section 5.1. Loon Hill Development, Inc. is seeking variance approval to construct a duplex on a vacant lot at 66 State Street. The proposal development will include a roadway extension of State Street and proposed fire lane on a paper street adjacent to the lot. The property is in traditional neighborhood two-family TTF zoning district and requires variance and approval under section 5.1 for the minimum lot area dwelling unit, minimum frontage, minimum front yard setback, and for any other relief required of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, Councilor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. George Theodoro, appearing on behalf of the applicant. And I have a letter before the board that was submitted last week requesting a continuance of this matter to March 9th.
Okay.
We're going to be updating the plan and also providing some additional information for DPD.
Okay. Very well. That being said, I'd like to open it up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition. Portion of this public hearing is closed. Anyone speaking in favor? In favor? In favor. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. On this particular petition, when it does appear before us, I will respectfully recuse myself from judgment. One of the abutters who stands in opposition to the project shares the same employer as I, and in that capacity, I am that abutter's immediate supervisor. So with that in mind, I will recuse myself in this matter.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briere. Moving forward, Mr. Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on ZB 2020-13 for 66 State Street to continue this matter to March 9th,
Correct.
2020.
A second?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Roll call.
Chairman Perrin,
Approve continuance to March 9th, 2020.
Member Peck,
Approve continuance to March 9th.
Member Callahan,
Approve continuance to March 9th, 2020.
Member McCarthy,
Approve continuance to March 9th.
Member Briere.
Very well, Councilor.
Thank you very much.
Continue. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Moving on to continued business, ZB 2019-50 for variance, Joseph C. Claremont, Esquire, care of Joanne Wicks, personal representative of the estate of Mary M. Emanuel, 755 School Street, Section 5.1. The applicant is seeking variance approval to construct a single-family home in a vacant lot on 755 School Street. The home is in an urban neighborhood single-family USF zoning district and requires variance approval under Section 5.1 for the lot that does not meet minimum frontage requirement and for any other relief required on the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, Councilor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you. Attorney Joseph Claremont appearing for the applicant Joanne Wicks. She's personal representative of the estate of Mary Emanuel. Joanne is with me this evening and is the owner of the property. The applicant is requesting a variance for frontage and for floor area ratio. Excuse me. It's a vacant lot, 45 by 73, 3,285 square feet, and she wishes to construct a new single-family house on the property, 2 stories. She can meet all the dimensional requirements except for the frontage. She needs 50 and has only, excuse me, has only 45. So we've submitted plans for the proposed dwelling. It has a gross floor area of 3,196 square feet. As I said, 2 stories. It will equal approximately 0.97 floor area ratio when 0.75 is required. So we're going to be requesting a variance both on the frontage and on the floor area ratio. We believe the frontage and the floor area ratio to be consistent with the neighborhood up and down that street. Many of the properties have 33 feet in frontage, as noted in the comments from the DPD staff. And we submitted additional plans. We requested to plot the driveway on the plan, so we submitted an additional plan with the driveway, which can be compliant with zoning. It would be 8 feet wide, approximately 40 feet long, and it would maintain the 3-foot setbacks for both the building and the lot line. The property does meet the usable open space requirements. There is a deck proposed for the back that would be compliant. It's within the 15 feet of the setback, but the deck is only 96 square feet under 200 square feet, so we believe it would fit the criteria for variances, and we respectfully request that the variance for frontage and floor area ratio be granted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor, appreciate that. I'd like to open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, that portion of public hearing is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition, that portion of public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open up to the board. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I think this site actually meets the criteria for relief. I think to me, the frontage area and the floor area ratio can be granted. I think, like I said, single family would make sense in this neighborhood. So overall, I'm supporting this, so I wish you best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Sean?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I was looking at this and checking through the GIS and through the plot plans, and it is kind of a weird setup there for 755 School Street, because there's an actual plot of land in the back that looks like it should be part of that, but in fact, it's adjacent to C Street. It's actually part of C Street. That's because I was looking at it, I was like, kind of like, that's a weird little space there that looks like it should be included with 755 School Street. But I looked into it further, checked out the deeds and the plot plans and the GIS, and it's actually connected to C Street. And like, that's kind of strange. So that being said, I mean, it looks like based on that alone, I could see that you have a hardship, because with that piece of land, that would bring you, a little bit closer to the dimensions for relief for zoning. And with the relief that's requested, the frontage is very minimal, and the FAR. I'm in agreement. I think this could be granted without any detriment. It will fit in the neighborhood, and I wish you the best of luck. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Mark?
My questions were with respect to the proposed driveway, which have been satisfactorily answered by Attorney Claremont. And as a result, I'll support the petition. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the driveway, because I'm looking at the plan that was submitted, and it doesn't state on the plan that you have 2 parking spaces that meet zoning. The plan that was submitted, I'm looking at the plan that was submitted by Landplex, dated December 20th, 2018. And is the parking space dimensioned, at least on the one that's online that I'm using, it's 24 feet
I'm sorry,
deep.
Mr. McCarthy, there was an updated plan, February 20th of 2020. Maybe you didn't have a copy. I do have a copy here if I can.
Do you mind? That'd be great. Ah, that's a lot better. Okay. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any problem with this at all. And I think that the submission is very thorough and detailed, and I really want to thank you for that. Now seeing the site plan as well, so I agree with my colleagues that I see this to be well within the guidelines for us to be granting you relief on this. So
thank you. And in terms of the thoroughness, I'd like to thank staff. They've been very helpful in helping us put this together. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Dennis. No, I echo that, that sentiment, Counselor. Your package is very well prepared, and, your positive input with our DPD department. They're magnanimous. They really are a great group of people, and they're very helpful to the public. So I think we're ready to appreciate another project in the city of Lowell where we have an opportunity to have housing, off-street parking, and move the city forward. So I appreciate you coming forward tonight. Any other comments or concerns? That said, I may have a motion, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on ZB 2019-50 for 755 School Street for variance approval under Section 5.1 for minimum frontage and floor area ratio to construct a single-family residence on a vacant lot.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a roll call.
Chairman Perrin,
Approved.
Member Peck,
Approve.
Member Callahan,
Approved?
Member McCarthy,
Approve.
Member Briere.
Approval.
So you've been unanimously approved. Best of
Thank you
luck,
very
Counselor.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Best of luck. Moving forward, under continued business, we have ZB 2020-1, variance and special permit, Hector Rodriguez at 15 Whipple Street, Section 5.1, Section 6.1, Section 12.1, subsection B. Hector Rodriguez is seeking variance and special permit approval to convert a vacant first-floor commercial space into a housing unit, thereby converting the property from a one-family home into a two-family home. The property is located in traditional mixed-use TMU zoning district. 15 Whipple Street requires variance approval under Section 5.1 to encroach on the minimum lot size, minimum lot area per dwelling unit, minimum frontage, side setback, and rear setback. 15 Whipple Street also requires variance approval under Section 6.1 for relief from off-street parking requirements, special permit approval under Section 12.1 subsection B for the proposed use of two-family in the TMU zoning district and for any other relief required under Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. I'm doing very well. As a refresher with respect to this property, I was here about a month ago. The property at 15 Whipple Street. At times when you Google it up, it shows up at 15-17 Whipple Street. And the reason for that is this property has been used at times for multiple uses. The two units, as I like to think of them as two units, the first floor, they're totally independent. There is no connection between the two, no internal stairwells. They're totally independent units. So when we came here a month ago, there were three specific requests from the board. One was for us to go back to the surveyor and ask for them to actually find a way of putting, if possible, a parking spot in the area. And mindful, Mr. McCarthy, of your comment about green space, I found that, I didn't think about the way that the surveyor actually put the parking spot there allows us to save the green space, right, and actually reserve a space in one side of the property and on the other side of the property for off-street parking, for on-street parking, I should have said. The second request was to go in and have internal drawings done for the property. Again, myself, I was thinking always of this as a studio. The architect came back with another option, which is an option of potentially adding a bedroom in the rear area of the space. Reminder, this is a space of about 850 square feet or so. There was also the request to portray in the drawing where the second exit for this unit would be, and it is right now scheduled to be towards the rear of the property. The third request, also Mr. McCarthy suggested that I go to St. Anthony's Catholic Church and inquire about parking possibilities, so I did. And while they don't have any space available right now, they added our name to, so that next time one of the open spots becomes available, they will give me a call. Of note, there is a property right in front of ours, 8 Whipple Street. It's a single family that has 5 off-street parking spaces. That property is in the market for sale right now. So our intention is to reach out to the new owner of that property as well and inquire as to the availability of a parking space off-street. Lastly, I know after we submitted the numbers, there was a request via email on Friday for clarification. There appears to be in the drawing something called a roof over, and there was a question there about whether that would fit there. Just clarification that this roof over is something that's in place and exists and it's been there for a long, long time. And the last request was with respect to clarification as to the passageway that's depicted in the plot plan. This passageway is to grant access to, there's a property at the rear of 15 Whipple, and this is a passageway to allow for this tenant to access that property. So that's my spiel for tonight.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Thank you for the updated plans as well. That being said, I'd like to open up public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Good evening, ma'am. The approach to the lectern. State your name and sign in for the record, please.
My name is Maria, and I oppose. There's no parking space, and the number of requirements that have need for special permit are so overwhelming. This was clearly made to be a single family. There is no parking space. It's going to be a very small apartment. And basically, there's no parking space. And it should stay a single family because that's how it was meant to be.
Okay, thank you. If you could just, for the public record, just your name and address. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? Good evening, sir.
Yes, I do. My name is Charles Filiatro. I represent Filiatro Family Trust. I also have partners with Frank and Ernest, my brothers, which we've been in business in that neighborhood since 1932. Now, parking has been an issue since probably the days of the horse and buggy. The problem is we have a compact neighborhood with no parking. The city was nice enough to give me two 30-minute parking stickers on both sides of my business, one on Whipple, one on Central, which are constantly violated. I'm constantly calling the Lowell police to tag these people who park there. Now, on Whipple Street, there's numerous apartments with more than one family living in the dwellings. This is a problem that's ongoing in the whole neighborhood. In other words, there's like 4 or 5 cars per house, which makes it almost impossible to find parking. As far as I can remember, is it 15 Whipple Street? 15 Whipple Street has been a single-family home. In the neighborhood where I've been there myself since 1960, the first floor was always used for storage for a roofing company, which the man, Mr. Couture, owned at that time. Other than that, I don't see how he can get parking. It's just a very tight neighborhood. If he had parking, I would not object at all. But parking is an issue in that neighborhood, and until they can find some kind of remedy for that I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? That portion of public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open up to the board. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rodriguez, you know, I applaud your efforts to trying to remedy this parking situation, you know, reaching out to the church and all that, trying to lease a spot or figure out some parking resolution for for the condensed neighborhood. You know, I'm very concerned, as some of the neighbors have spoken. And I totally understand. I actually live not too far from this neighborhood or this street. So what is a realistic solution to parking or a parking spot? Besides you reaching out to the church and they put you on the waiting list, and you talked about a potential neighbor, leasing spot from them, like what's the real viable plan?
Yeah. No, I think, again, number one is this is expected to be a small unit, so it'll be either a single person or a couple. So likely to not be more than one car and hopefully none, but at least maybe one car. The most realistic, last time when I was here about a month or so ago, my thinking was if we build a parking spot there, it's really a neutral situation because you're likely to then lose a parking spot on the street. But if you're taking into account the frontage of the property, this parking spot, the way that it's being designed, actually keeps a space at one side of it and on the other side of it for street parking. So it's not what I thought at first, because there are some cost implications to the project on building the driveway there. But I think it's realistic, it's possible, and we're ready to give the project a go with the driveway built in the way that the architect, not the architect, the surveyor designed it.
Okay. You know, I applaud you efforts. I know you're trying to make a real effort to alleviate parking and you know, hopefully work with the neighborhood, because, you know, I know that area is really is condensed and compact. You know, but I still have some concerns, but I'll see what my colleagues say. So I'm undecided at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Van. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr. Rodriguez, well, thank you for updating the plans and going back and providing us with the updated site plans, also with the renderings for what the plans are for the interior of the proposed unit. I will say I'm struggling with this a bit, especially with the parking aspect of it, because there's a couple of things. Number one, you have this passageway that, and I just pulled up the deed and I looked up the plot plans from back in the 1950s when this was created.
49.
It's running straight through your property, right up to the edge of your,
Yep.
right up to the edge of your property, literally. And unfortunately, based on what I'm seeing, that has been, no, there is an ongoing easement on that for the property in the rear.
Property. Yep.
I think it's 13 Whipple, if I'm not mistaken. So trying to squeeze a parking lot into that to kind of fit in with the dimensions of zoning. And I understand you're asking for that for the relief, but the tough way, it's tough both ways.
Yeah.
We want to try to get some cars off the street,
Sure.
but then, like you said, with then taking
Sure.
a space off the street, which could be utilized. So
Maybe
it's-
just a further clarification, then the passageway that's depicted there is not in use because there's a concrete wall in front of the house, so the passageway is drawn, not used. Our intention would then be, once the driveway is created, we will bring down that wall and create that passageway for the tenants, for the owners in the back, and also for the owners of the property that is there right now.
Yeah.
Because then they would use that passageway also to exit.
No, I saw it, yeah,
property.
I mean, I noticed that too. That was one of the curiosities I had, is that it's fenced in, it's up on the
Yeah.
elevated area, but it's there. I mean, and trying to squeeze the parking into that, and then then trying to squeeze the parking into that without violating the rights of the abutters on that passageway is going to be a bit of a stretch. One thing I didn't notice on the plot plan, though, I mean, I see the parking space and it is set out, but it doesn't show how far away the parking space is, so what the distance is between the parking space and the building is. Do you know how much that is going to be, or
I
that's?
do not know, unless it's not depicted
Yeah,
in the plot.
that's not on there, because we
Okay.
do have to meet the dimensional requirements for the parking space itself,
Okay.
especially in a TMU where it's a little, It's, some of the requirements are a bit higher than other things. I believe, actually, the dimensional width is wrong. We have 8 feet. Minimum dimensional width in a TMU is 9. Length is 18, but you have 16. The
And this
dimensional
was
width,
16th, yeah.
the length is supposed to be 18 in a TMU.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to work with. And, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing if it could be worked. I mean, that's why I'm struggling with it a little bit.
Sure, sure.
But it's kind of, I don't know, it seems more and more to me that the more you can kind of push it over and try to work with it, it's, without violating the passageway, I don't know, it's going to be a tough stretch.
Yeah, what Mr.
But I
Aho-
mean, if you want to try to have something to try to look into that, that's maybe,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be objectionable to that. I don't know what my other fellow board members think about that, but, because we're trying to, I mean, it's a tough squeeze in the area. I know parking is at a premium. Even if it's a one-family there, yes. I mean, again, if I recall, it was previously used as a commercial building at first, right, too?
That's what the narrative stated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would anything stop them from be able to use it as commercial in the TMU?
We would have to review
Yeah.
the proposal specifically, what
Maybe.
kind of use it would be, because commercial can mean a lot of different things.
Even then, you still have to meet the parking requirements for commercial as well, right? So,
Mr. Callahan, can I ask for clarification? What is it that you were asking specifically with respect to the parking not intruding over the passageway?
so when
You're
I'm
looking
saying,
for more clarification, or,
clarification, because of the plot plan you provided, it gives us a parking space,
yeah?
but it doesn't tell us how far away it is from
Mm-hmm.
the building, and even if you move it over, you got to kind of configure it in so that it doesn't violate
Okay,
it doesn't violate the passageway, because I mean, it's a right-of-way
okay.
for the adjacent property. And I don't know if that's something maybe we can look into to try to see if you can configure that. Maybe you can, if you want to try angle parking.
Yeah.
And again, it looks like it also goes all the way flush up to the stairwell going into 15, which,
Yeah, yeah,
And
there
would
is
have to
an
be
old
away from-
stairwell, concrete stairwell there that would have to be removed. It's not in use right now. But what is depicted there is the stairwell, yes, in the drawing. There's just an additional one there in concrete that is the old one that I guess used to be used for that property years ago.
yeah, so the stairwell, you have the parking and then the stairwell, then you have a walkway going to the back end of the stairwell.
Towards the back end.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
You don't have depicted the stone stairwell, which is there, which
Correct.
you say
That
you're
would
gonna
have
remove.
to be removed.
I presumed you were going to move that to
Yes.
begin with, too,
Yes.
but that stairwell, I mean, then it extends out to, when you go up the stairs, it then extends out,
Yeah.
coming back towards the edge of the parking,
Yes.
to
yeah,
the back end of the parking, so,
Yeah,
again,
so,
like I said, it's a tough call, I'm struggling with it a bit, I mean, like I said, I'm willing to, again, I'll listen to my other fellow board members, I mean, if, I'm willing to see if you want to try to take one last crack at it, to see if you can fit it in, but,
we
It's,
certainly.
it looks like it might be a tough stretch, but I'm willing to give you the benefit to try to see if it can be, but, if we can't fit it in and within, some semblance of what the dimensions are for parking, the dimensions for off-street parking, it's gonna be kind of tough, at least for myself to
Okay.
maybe agree to grant this, but,
We're willing to go
but
back.
again, that's my thought process at this point, and I will listen to my fellow board members and see what they say, so, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Mark?
I share the concerns of some of your neighbors, in particular the proprietor of Frank and Ernest. Even he indicated that he doesn't oppose what you propose to do, except for the parking. That's what it all comes down to. Without you being able to show me a compliant parking space, I can't vote in favor. I don't want to vote to deny you your opportunity. So I'd like to, if you, as was just suggested by Commissioner Callahan, can come back to us If you're willing to do that, I'll keep an open mind to it. But as this is presented this evening, I'm sorry to say, in my estimation, it's a no.
And you're, again, for clarification, you're saying come back with a parking space that is in compliance
Right.
with the, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of questions, but it seems like what we have here is a single-family house with a commercial unit with no off-street parking, and if it were to meet zoning, you would be required to have 3 off-street parking spaces. So we're looking to change that from a single-family house with a commercial unit that currently doesn't meet zoning with 3 parking spaces required to a 2-family house or building that would require 4 off-street parking spaces or 1 additional off-street parking space in reality. And what you're proposing is providing
That
1 additional off-street parking space. Since you're already non-compliant with the other 3 required, you're looking to provide 1 additional off-street parking space. And in doing the 1 off-street parking space that you're proposing, you're not changing the characteristics of the street parking substantially, because the street parking in front of your property doesn't allow for 3 parking spaces, only allows for 2.
Correct.
And by adding the single parking space where you're doing it, allows those 2 parking spaces to remain.
3.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we have a updated site plan in front of us. I'm not sure if it's accurate. The piece that I'm struggling with is the property line that's shown and the sidewalk that would be shown. So we don't have a sidewalk on the site plan, at least not one depicted. And I'm assuming that your building foundation is not on your property line, is set back from your property line by 3 or 4 feet, which kind of is what it's indicated in the site plan. Is that correct?
No, the front wall of the building is right at the sidewalk. So the pictures that you may have seen on the narrative, the front door is right on the sidewalk. There's no offset in.
So I don't like the site plan for not depicting the sidewalk
Okay.
and not depicting the correct property line indication with the building
In
edge,
respect to-
because that then would lead one to believe that the 16-foot parking space that you're depicting incorporates the sidewalk. So you're parking partly on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
which I don't think is your intent, but that's
No.
how the site plan reads, because
Yeah.
you're not depicting a sidewalk on the plan.
Right. No, so the way I understood the drawing, it was 16 feet from the edge of the sidewalk, the property line in.
Yep.
Right? So that's the 60 feet. It's, it's from the property line in.
Well, part of the reason I'm kind of coming to that conclusion is because the building dimensions 30 feet. It looks like it has an entry door centered on the building facade on that side. So the dimension would be 15 feet to the center of that door, right? And if the property line is the foundation of the building, you'd only have 15 feet from the property line to the center of the door, and you need a exit platform stairway. So you wouldn't even have the 15 feet, you'd be down to like 13 feet. All right, so I don't think you have an accurate site plan yet.
Okay.
Even if we were to approve this, I don't think you could build it, even if we were to approve this parking space.
Okay.
So I'd like to see this continued and you to work with the civil engineer to correct the site plan,
Okay.
to depict the sidewalk correctly.
Okay.
And I think you really owe it to us, trying to approve this, that you depict a parking space that meets zoning.
Okay.
Maybe 9 by 18 is more of a stretch, but come up with a reason why you can't do the 9 by 18, you
Okay.
know?
Okay. Yeah.
You are obligated to show grading, topo. You don't have any topo on this. I know that it slopes up. I don't think it slopes up steeply, but I'd just like to understand if
About
we're
how much?
creating a condition where we're parking on a steep slope there, which makes it difficult for people to use.
Sure.
So I don't think that's too steep, but I'd just like to understand that. So if you could also include in the
Incorporate that
next
in the drawing.
version,
Okay.
if the rest of the board looks to continue this,
Okay.
that the parking space includes topo.
Okay. So topography and the sidewalk, and then redraw the parking so that it hopefully meets.
Yeah, and maybe you indicate anything that's being removed, like that entry stair that's going up the side there is dotted
Yeah.
in to be removed.
So would
things like
pictures
that,
help?
Just to help us understand exactly what your intention is.
Okay.
It would be great.
Okay.
But I think I understand how you arrived at this solution, and in theory, you're not making a situation worse.
Mhm.
In theory.
Mhm.
However, the way the property has been used, I don't think that the previous owner used it as a commercial space other than storage for his, and he didn't really have a parking requirement for that.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
in reality, you're making a worse situation for the neighborhood,
Mhm.
in reality. I agree that you should really try to secure a parking space off-site somewhere, like you're trying to do.
Mhm.
I mean, that'd be wonderful for you to see if you could get a lease for some off-street parking somewhere nearby.
So would that be a realistic and acceptable solution as well, if I were to be able to secure?
We've
through a
granted
lease?
variances with petitioners that came in for us in the past that had secured off-street parking nearby on lots.
Okay,
So it has happened often,
okay.
in my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, sir, certainly you can hear the comments of the board with mutual concerns for a couple of different things, and a few things of requirement that are missing. So in order to try to satisfy the application process to get those items in and continue to demonstrate in good faith, excuse me, I'd recommend a continuance at minimum to March 23rd, as March 9th is completely full at this point with 7 petitions. I think that should give you ample time to get your topo in line, have communication with DPD, and then be prepared to come back
Okay,
to answer some of those questions and finalize your application.
I will do that.
So does March 23rd work for you?
Yes, it does.
Any objections to that date? May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I can make quick comments, sir.
Certainly.
Mr. Rodriguez, so I think for me at least, since you continue and coming back on the 23rd, I really like Mr. McCarthy's suggestion of having some kind of lease or MOU with an off-site property for an actual parking spot. I really, for me, that would satisfy some of my parking concern. So if you can get an MOU or some kind of lease from the church or, whatever agreement, that would really satisfy my parking concerns for myself, Mr. Rodriguez, speaking for myself. So I just wanted to add that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with the vice chair and with Ms. McCarthy. I think one thing I want to stress, and as was pointed out, should discuss this with a civil engineer, come back with other plans with regards to the parking and showing the layouts from I would refer to the table of dimensions for off-street parking on the zoning code, the 6.110. That'll give you the idea. Now, again, we want to try to get there as close as possible if we can, but we got to see how much we're working with here.
Okay.
And I know it's a very tight squeeze.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you have to meet them all, everything. I mean, everybody's got a different opinion. It depends on how the plans work out, and we'll take a look. And that's
Okay.
that's
fair.
the point of it. But we do really have to see how a parking spot can fit into that area as close to the zoning code as possible, where maybe the members of the board here are comfortable to grant relief. So I just want to stress that when you come back with that, and also keeping in mind the passageway is a line, even though you have the lot line, the passageway is a right-of-way that needs to be taken into account. And I would probably explain that to the civil engineer as well, because if we're encroaching in the passageway, I don't think it's going to work, so, okay? Other than that, I don't have any other further comments, Mr. Chairman.
Just in full disclosure, so we're in understanding for the continuance to March 23rd, we need, for the completion of the applications, topography with elevations, full site plan to include the parking plan,
And parking
And the
dimensions.
sidewalk.
parking
Plan
dimensions,
yeah.
and narrative on the exclusions of the wall and the passageway. So we have a better understanding of all that. Will be taken care of the site plan. Also moving into a second continuance, we will be prepared to make a vote on that evening. So please do your due diligence with DPD, get all your records in order, have a full understanding that they're very helpful to move this forward. Otherwise, that evening, we will move forward for a vote.
Okay.
Or you have obviously a right to reserve to withdraw without prejudice, but I think we're at the point where if we get everything in line, we should be good. Is there anything else requested from the board?
I just want to clarify that I feel that we need to correct the site plan to indicate the property line adjacency to the building correctly. Because I think the property line is where you say, right, basically at the building footprint edge on Whipple Street, not, 3 or 4 feet off of that. That's where I think we need the correction made.
Okay.
Okay, so
I agree.
thank you. May I have a motion for continuance? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on ZB 2020-1 for 15 Whipple Street for a continuance of this matter to March 23rd? March 23rd, 2020.
Second,
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
roll call.
Chairman Perrin,
Approve continuance to March 23rd, 2020.
Member Peck,
Approve continuance to March 23rd.
Member Callahan,
Approve continuance to March 23rd, 2020.
Member McCarthy,
Approve continuance to March 23rd.
Member Briere,
Approve continuance.
You ask, so you continue, let it, for public record, this is the public notice for continuation. There'll be no notice of record either in the Lowell Sun or distribution to a brother, so this is the public notice if you wish to attend. We will be back in session on March 23rd, 2020 on this petition. I want to thank the citizens for coming out tonight again. And I'm sure at this point, we're all in the same understanding of getting our records and paperwork in order to move forward for a vote. That being said, I'd like to move forward under other business. This matter is beyond us. Seeking minutes for approval. Have they all been reviewed by the members? Is there any edits, concerns, deletions, additions? That being said, may I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for February 10th, 2020.
Second?
Second motion.
Roll call.
Chairman Perrin,
Approve minutes for 2/10/2020.
Member Peck,
Approve the minutes for February 10th.
Member Callahan,
Approve minutes for February 10th, 2020.
Member McCarthy,
Approve the minutes for February 10th.
Member Briere.
Approval.
That being said, any other comments, concerns from the members of the board? Seek a motion for dismissal,
Adjournment.
adjournment.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Meeting's been adjourned. Thank you.